welcome back to my channel. I'm Teresa. For those of you that are new here, thank you for joining me, and if you're one of the regulars, it's so nice to see you again. Today we're going to be doing some gel printing, and I am going to be making this beautiful translucent paper lantern. A little bit tricky to see here as I'm holding it to the side. There will be some nice still photos at the end, and obviously in the thumbnail I'll try and put a nice photograph which will show it off to its best abilities. But I just wanted to do something a little bit different using the gel plate today that doesn't require many products, and there are plenty of ways that you can adjust this to different shapes and sizes, whether you colour it or not. That's all entirely up to you. So I'm going to go and get set up, and I'll be right back and show you how we make it. We're going to begin making our lantern by printing our panels, and today I'm using my 5" by 7" Jelly Arts gel printing plate. Use whatever brand plate you have, whatever size you've got. Obviously, if you've only got a very small one, then that may limit the size of the panel that you make, unless you're willing to print several times onto a larger piece of paper. So for example, if you'd only got a plate that was half this size, you could print on one part of the paper and then print again until you've covered the area. But this is perfectly adequate for the size of the panels that I'm going to be making today. So I'm going to use this one. I've got my brayer. This is just one of the Ranger rubber brayers. I have some white gesso. Now you could use white acrylic, that will work absolutely fine, but I'm going to use gesso. I've got plenty of that, and I'm running a little bit low on the acrylic, and at the moment sort of getting supplies is not so easy, so using what I've got. And I've chosen a stencil. Now this stencil is from Joggles. Doesn't matter what design you use, but I would suggest something with a fairly even, small, all over design like this. This is just like a random, I think it's called wood logs or something. It does look a little bit like slices of log or roses, that type of thing. But a small geometric pattern would be great. You don't want anything that's too sort of obscure or large in design, because we're working on quite a small scale today, so you want just something that's going to be a nice even pattern. Today we're printing onto tracing paper, and I've cut myself 4 pieces. Now this is quite a nice quality tracing paper, like a draftsman quality. You could use like a parchment paper for the parchment craft. Pergamano, I believe, still make a parchment paper. Something like that would work. I would try and avoid some of the very cheap tracing papers, because they can be a little bit flimsy. This has got a bit more body to it than like a very cheap child's tracing paper. But if that is all you've got, or indeed something like a baking greaseproof paper, try it and see. You might just find it might curl a little bit with the paint, and you might just have to flatten it out again afterwards. But as I always say, please experiment with what you've got. The worst comes to the worst, you throw the piece of paper in the bin and you have to go and get some more. But you know, this is just quite a nice quality tracing paper. Now I've got myself 4 pieces of this because I'm making 4 panels, and we're going to do the printing, and then I'll show you how we can construct the lantern and all that afterwards while those are just drying. So to begin with, I'm going to just brayer a thin layer of white gesso all over the surface of my plate. This really simple printing this time, showing you how you don't need to do anything too complicated, but get a really pretty effect when you've finished. I'm going to take my stencil and lay that over the plate. Then I'm going to take my piece of tracing paper, place that down on top of the stencil, and press firmly to transfer the paint. With the tracing paper being translucent, you can see that you've got the paint lifting on there. If you've missed a little area, you know, you can see to be able to go back and apply a bit more pressure. But once you're happy, remove your tracing paper and set it aside to dry. If it looks like it's going to start curling, just weight it down on the corners with something, you know, stand a couple of little pots of paint or something just so that it dries flat. And we're going to repeat this on all of our panels, so don't want that to go to waste. So I'm just using, this is an old mop-up sheet that I'd got. May as well just pull a few ghost prints and make use of that bit of paint that's still on there. These will go back in the drawer and be used for something else. So then, like we did before, start by covering the plate once again with a layer of gesso, and do this until you've got 4 printed panels. Once you've printed all 4 panels and they're dry, which doesn't take long at all, you can make a decision. Now, you can leave them as they are. If you want them just to be white with the printed pattern on, that's absolutely fine, and that looks absolutely beautiful. But I've decided I'm going to add some colour, and one of the simplest ways to add colour is using some distressings. So I've chosen 3 bright colours here. These look nice, they'll blend together easily. I've got picked raspberry, mustard seed and peacock feathers. I've also got a blending brush. This is the Pink and Main large blending brush. Really liking this one at the moment. It's a nice comfortable shape and size to use. It's got this lovely, almost like a velvety suede finish, and comes with this little stand, which is really handy. So I'm going to use this brush to apply the distress inks, and the white paint will act as a resist. And when we've blended the ink over the surface, I'm just going to take a very slightly damp piece of paper towel just to remove any excess from the top of the paint. And you will then see the white paint come through as a resist, but you've then got the colour in the translucent areas of the tracing paper. So I'm just going to blend the colours randomly, and we'll create a bit of a sort of rainbow effect. So I'm going to use the mustard seed on each of the 4 panels first, then I can just take my brush and just wipe it over a slightly damp cloth to clean off any excess ink, move on to my second colour, and then repeat and move on to my third colour. And I'm working on the side that has the paint on it. This is the side that the paint is on, because this ink will wipe off the surface of the paint with a damp towel. I remember the day when we started talking. We were kids and I knocked down all of your mobiles, but you did not seem to mind at all. We took our bikes to the lake after school each day and skipped many stones from the beach. And one thing you said was, listen, I will have your back always. And now we're grown up, I don't really see you enough. There's too much to be done. It's no fun. But even if we're far apart, I know where we belong. Haven't changed a bit in my heart. Your words have never been wrong. You are my own safety zone. And now just a little bit of water on a paper towel, just so that it's slightly damp. And then we can lightly rub that over the surface, and it will just remove some of that excess ink off the top of that gesso. There, and as you can see, because I've got a white background, it makes it a little easier to see. That gesso has acted as a resist, but we've got this beautiful colour in the transparency behind. Now, in order to make the lantern, I'm going to tell you the dimensions of the pieces that I'm using today, but you can easily change this up, make it larger, make it smaller, change the proportions so that it's taller and narrower. There are lots of ways around it, as long as you just follow a few basic rules. So I've got my 4 panels, so I need 4 frames, one for each of those panels. And I've die cut these from some black card. It's fairly heavyweight black card. I would say probably around about the 300 GSM. If you've only got something thinner, consider cutting 2 and sticking them together. This has got to sort of hold up, so you don't want it to be too flimsy. It does need to be a reasonable card weight. Now, I had a set of nesting rectangular dies, and I've just popped 2 together in order to cut these. If you do not have any dies or a die cutting machine, you can do this perfectly easily with a ruler and a knife and just cut out the frame. Now, the approximate size of these is 13 centimetres by 15.5 centimetres. That's the outer dimensions, and then obviously the width of the frame here, it's about 3/4 of a centimetre, something like that. But again, just go with whatever, if you've got a set of dies that will work, use those, and just adjust the other sort of proportions to fit in with what you've got. So these are going to have one of these patterned panels behind each one, and in order to fix them together, I've cut myself 4 strips, and these are 18 centimetres long by 1.5 centimetres wide. I've made them a little bit longer because I want them to have just some feet on the bottom so that it's raised up off the ground. So I have just scored vertically down the length of this and folded them, and these are going to be my little tabs that hold the panels together, and they're going to be attached on the inside, and we'll be able to join all 4 panels together into a little square shape. So I've scored and folded those 3, just got this last one here to finish folding. And again, I've used a reasonable weight card. Just use the side of a bone folder or the back of a bladed scissors just to get a nice firm crease on there. The other thing we need, because obviously this is going to be our sides, we're going to need a base. And I've just cut a base from a piece of foam board. Got a bit of foam board left over, so I've used that. And that is 13 centimetres square, because obviously the width of my panels at the bottom is 13 centimetres. Now, if you don't have foam board, you could just use normal card, but you're going to have to make some little tabs to join it. Obviously, because this has got some depth to it, I can just apply glue along the edge of that and glue it directly to my frame. If you were using just a square of this black card, make sure to add some little tabs so that you can join the sides and the base together. So what we're going to do first is trim our panels down to fit the frame. And I'm going to cut these just fractionally smaller than my frame. I don't want them sticking out from the side. So I'm just going to go over to my trimmer, trim them down, and then I'm going to glue them in place. You can use glue, use double-sided tape, but we're going to fix them on the inside of these little black frames. So I've attached my panels inside the frames, and I've put a piece of double-sided tape down the long edges of each one in order to add these little joins, and I'm going to attach all of them together in a long row and then pop the base in before I finally seal it up into the lantern shape. So I'm just going to make sure I am lined up with the top edge of my frame, and that fold runs right nice and neatly along the edge, like so. I'm going to take the next panel and attach that in exactly the same way, making sure it's nice and level at the top and runs neatly along that fold. And I'm just going to continue until I've got all 4 of these joined together. So I've got my 4 panels all joined together. I've left the backing on my last piece of tape, which will be what joins that round into the actual square shape. But I need to attach my basin, and it's going to be easier to pop the base in now before it's all closed up. For this, I'm going to just use my hot glue gun. You could still use some tape. I'm not sure how well double-sided tape will stick to this foam. You could use a bit of wet glue and just hold it and wait for it to dry, but I'm figuring a hot glue gun is going to be probably my quickest and easiest way to do this. So I'm just going to pop some along there. And just press that in place like so. Same with that second side. Just press that into place. Then my third side in. And at this point I'm going to remove the backing of my double-sided tape. And as I'm going down carefully, line up that little fold as I press on to the base. And there we have our assembled lantern, like so. Any little stringy bits of glue, just pull them off once they've cooled down. But other than that, we're just ready now to pop our lights in. The lights that I'm using today is just one of these strings of bottle lights. A while back I did a video showing how to use these in bottles and decorated the bottles in lots of different ways. If I can find the link, I will link that video up in the corner. But obviously, although these are marketed as bottle lights and they come with this little artificial cork, you don't have to use them as such. They are literally just a string of like little LED fairy lights. So what I'm going to do is just undo the string. This string has 20 lights on. And I'm going to just sort of bunch them up so that they will fit nicely within this lantern. Like so. And turning on the side, I'm just going to dim down the lights around so that you can see the lit up effect. So as you can see, I've still got some daylight in here, but we're getting this beautiful translucent coloured effect. You'll be able to see better in some still photos at the end when I can actually have this stood up and take some pictures. But we've got these beautiful colours showing through. Our printed resist pattern is just really subtle effect on the lantern, and I hope you enjoyed seeing what you can do with a gel plate that is something totally different, a nice piece of home decor again. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please leave me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And check out the still photos at the end. I'll try and get a much better idea for you of what this really looks like in real life. But for now, that's all. Bye.
I remember the day when we started talking. We were kids and I knocked down all of your marbles, but you did not seem to